were you expecting a wiring video? Is this the fuel video? Maybe this is the wiring video. Maybe this is still the cooling video. See, they kind of run over top of each other, so whichever section is done more, we'll make the video on that, and the order completely changes. I mean, Lyle just bent this pipe up for me. Oh, isn't that just pretty? So is this the cooling video, the wiring video, or the fuel video? I guess we'll find out. Alright, so we had some major issues with Quattro Deboss and Super Speeders Rob Project Card Challenge. Biggest one right off the bat was our cooling system. We had oil going into the turbos, which was another system, fuel management, boost control, and engine management. We're working on each system at the same time. It just takes a while to accumulate all the parts, the right fittings, the right whatever we need. We're gonna take each system that let us down, explain how we're gonna fix it. You cannot put a scavenge pump directly on a turbo drain. So next we're gonna tackle the fuel system. We're gonna show you guys what the Holley fuel system is able to do for us, including that mat to pick up the fuel wherever it is. We're gonna install a fuel tank vent, which is why we could only run for a few minutes at a time at Sebring. We are learning a lot. So this is our 1600-2 fuel pump, which is good for our pump gas and race gas, and will allow us to put out, what, 8 million horsepower? 8 million. 8 million horsepower. Guaranteed. So we got 2 filters coming in, 1 line going out, 2 lines coming out of the tank, and 2 going into our pump. And we'll tuck the fuel line nicely right in the rail where it's protected. We'll probably move this one just over on, we'll drill these out and just move this turbo feed line. Turbo feed line is gonna go underneath, fuel line is gonna go in there, return's gonna go on the other side. And yeah, that's that simple.
It's already done.
It's already done.
We discussed it, it's done.
So we're using Earl's flexible fuel line, which is good for ethanol too yet. It's threaded on the outside and the inside, and it comes with their own specific fittings. So what we have to do, because some assembly is required, let's take some Teflon and wrap it nice and tight around the end of it. Go around at least twice. Take your knife and poke it through, a nice sharp new knife. Cut 90% of the way around. We'll take some sharp scissors or some good tin snips, cut the last of it. If my wife says if I steal one more pair of scissors, I'm gonna get a note from her lawyer. Then you want to take it, slide it back, keeping the Teflon on it. Then take your fitting apart, take the furrow out, slide your fitting on there, pull the sheet back, and then thread your furrow on with the taper end facing down. Now, it wants to cross thread. It's just, that's what it's made of. You can try and squeeze it on by hand. If you can't, you have little girly hands. No, just kidding. If you can't, grab up a little bit of sandpaper, some fine sandpaper, and that'll help you grip it. You can use pliers, but then you run the risk of turning it into an egg. And I only like eggs for breakfast. So if there's any piece that, if you can't cut a straight line, then put a little extra on, and until the shallowest part is at the furrow, cut it flush with the furrow. I hate waste, so we'll just bring that back to until it's perfect. Shove your fitting in there, push it nice and tight. Now you can take your Teflon off, and you want to try and slide this cover back till it's about to the end of the furrow. What's happening is the furrow will grab this and keep the sheet from sliding back and giving you horrible looking lines. You want to put a little dab of oil on the thread, a little dabby of oil there, so that it doesn't like to strip. Then start by hand, spin it on there, making sure you're not cross threaded. Stick her in the vise, lining up both of these flats and then spinning the fitting on. Just take your time. When it bottoms out, don't force it. Tight is tight. And you have a custom fitting. Now, that's much nicer than the way I was doing it before. I was getting other shops to make the hoses for me, but now you can make them 100% custom, keep them nice and tight and clean. We've got 3/4 inch line coming out of the tank for the feed. That's good enough for our 800 horsepower. If we want to up the horsepower to say 2800, then we can replace our 3/4 line with a bigger line and then use the 3/4 inch line as a return. That's just thinking ahead. I don't think we'll get that far with this car, but who knows? Technology is awesome. So I'm gonna finish up these lines. Here we go. So on our fuel tank here, we had a couple issues. I thought that the cap was vented. That was wrong, so we need to add a vent to it. Not a big deal. We got a rollover check valve that's coming on the one side. We've got our fuel returning to this side, and we're mounting a fuel cooler right beside it. For the pickup, we've got this hydramat that Holley makes, and what's cool about this is it's perforated all the way around. But when it doesn't see any fuel, it actually sucks together and it closes the holes. So even if one little corner is touching a little bit of fuel, all the holes will be covered except for the ones that are submerged in the fuel. It will pick up that fuel and deliver that to the engine. So we'll be able to run this tank completely dry, which is fantastic. What that allows us to do is actually we turn the tank around because we had these fittings sticking out the back, and I did that because as we're taking away, the fuel would slosh towards the back. I didn't want it to starve as we were accelerating. While we were braking, the fuel would have sloshed to the front, and that's okay. There is a mat inside, but this is just how my brain works. I had a little block here that redirected the fuel around the car, but we learned in class that every direct 90 in a fuel system is like adding 3 feet of line to the length of the hose.
That was even worse than a 90. That was like a T.
It was a T. It was a T block. Yeah, it was like terrible.
Horrible. Yeah, it was horrible.
So that was a huge mistake. What we're doing now is sticking this Y in there with no more T's. So this will be a Y. We'll put a line in. We'll put this line that's meant to be submerged in a short run from here to here. The Y allows it to split off evenly. We want to restrict as many 90s and direct T's as we can, and then these will in turn loop down and connect to these fittings on the front, which will really eliminate everything inside the tank. So, make some lines.
Make some lines.
Here we go. No,
Do some lines.
My favorite tool, the cordless ratchet. If you take the grinder and take off the rounded spots, you get the flat spots left, or a little bit of it, and then you fit it in a 6-point socket. Let's see if we can drill some holes in the side of this. So it's definitely working. But I can feel it getting warm, so before I do any damage, yeah, it's pretty warm. I'm gonna stop and grab the 3/8. In the meantime, we're gonna put our ductwork for our brake cooling system here, so we'll cut a big hole in here.
Yeah. Let's add. We've got to put some more speed holes on it.
Nice. So now I'm gonna feed the fuel line from the filter is going to go through here and then come up from the other side, actually being nicely protected away from the tire. Any potential hits from tires coming apart, this whole section is going to be nicely protected. So we'll put some grommets in there and have them poking out really nicely. Okay, here's the fuel cooler. I just had these fittings welded on, TIG done.
Soon I'll get a TIG machine. But I got a little piece of rubber there that I just found laying around, and fits really slick. Then I just took a bracket, bent it up into a U, and we'll rivet that in place, and we're golden. Here we go. Okay, so finished. We've got our 2 lines coming out of our tank, which go to 2 100 micron filters, one on the top, one on the bottom. From there, they go to the end of our pump. Now the pump you want to keep within 2 feet of the tank, and you want it, the inlet of the pump to be lower than the outlet of the tank. From there, we go back up to our 10 micron filter, and then from there, up underneath the wastegate, we're gonna put a heat shield here once I have everything ran that I want to run. From there, it goes in through a rubber grommet here that we made for the 2, and goes up into the chassis here and comes back out into the firewall area here. It comes out, and that's actually where the wiring from the Audi originally went through, so it's all protected nicely inside there. And then from there, it'll get terminated at the fuel rail. From there, it'll go through the fuel rail, out the other side, come back again, and that will go into the end of this fuel pressure regulator. You got a pressure sensor there to tell us what the fuel pressure is. And from there, it's gonna come out the bottom, go back into that hole, make it into this frame, gonna come back out, and it's gonna make a solid run all the way down, nice and parallel on the back side of this, coming through here because we're tight on space. And then these are little truck airline clippings for the airlines, and they work perfect to space everything out. From there, it goes into the trunk area. From there, it goes into our fuel cooler at the bottom, and then it swooshes around, comes back out, and then goes to return back into the tank. Now the return, we tap the bottom of this fitting and put a standpipe in it, and the standpipe is about 1 inch from the bottom of the tank, and that's so that the air doesn't aerate, or the fuel doesn't aerate as it drops back down in again. We're still working on our vent. The vent and the rollover valve will be on the other side. But that in a nutshell is our fuel system, upgraded 10,000%. Very easy to work with, nice to work with. We'll pressure check it before we run actual fuel through it, and then go from there. Everything's tied down nice and neat. Anywhere that it's a sketchy thing, make sure that it's covered up with a protector. And also we're gonna put a bar just across here from here to here. Once we have everything where I want it to be, we'll put a protector on here just in case this axle ever breaks. It won't have a chance to hit all the good stuff around here. So that is our fuel system. The next video will be something else. I'm not sure what, but it's coming up soon. What are we doing? What am I doing? Oh, wiring. Probably wiring, because look how awesome this is. Oh, it's so beautiful. We got air coming in, we got wires coming out, we got wires going to other places. We gotta finish up some stuff yet. Oh, it's beautiful. I redid the whole engine harness because that's just the way I am. Our intake is turned around, so all the sensors were on the wrong end, and then I added the starter wire and alternator wire, and it's gonna be a good video. See you at LS Fest. It is coming up fast, but and I'm not sleeping anymore, but that's okay, because even when I try to close my eyes, I see wiring diagrams, and I see plumbing and fittings that I still need, and so what's the point of going to sleep? Close my eyes for a bit, watch a little bit of crappy TV, and then right back in the shop again. See you at LS Fest. If I don't see you there, we'll see you with the Skid Factory boys, September 19th in Dunnville. Here we go.